What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel, where in today's video we are going to be discussing a new reveal from Star Wars, which essentially reveals how Palpatine cut the Jedi off from the Force and concealed not only his own identity but his entire plan to take the galaxy. So I was just browsing the internet looking for any sort of Star Wars news, and I came across this article by Screen Rant, and it covers a new Star Wars book which is set in the High Republic era. This is the first story they've released that is set in the High Republic era, which, for those of you who don't know, again, it is set roughly 200 to 300 years before The Phantom Menace. And so obviously I have not read this novel, but the book is called Light of the Jedi. And essentially it sounds like there's this scene where this criminal who, I don't know who he is, he's just some enemy of the Jedi, and he captures a Jedi Master and holds him in this torture chamber where there are a bunch of people being kept actually, and he explains how he can stop the Jedi from being able to call on the Force for knowledge and wisdom. And this is the quote: "My family knew all about people like you. They told me what you could do and how to resist it. They're not getting out either. If they die, I'll just bring in more. Their job is to fill this deck with pain and anger and fear. Makes it hard for you to think, doesn't it? Hard for you to call on the Force. You don't imprison Jedi behind bars. You do it with pain." Now, this is a really interesting quote. I am very intrigued by what he says here, because essentially what this guy is saying is that by instilling fear and anger and pain in certain environments, which those are all things that fuel the dark side, of course, it clouds the Jedi's ability to call on the Force for guidance. So this is what Palpatine did. This is why he orchestrated the entire Clone War, and this is how the Sith are able to conceal themselves from the Jedi while also working right under their noses. By throwing the Force out of balance, it literally takes away from the Jedi's power. And the article also references a quote from Dave Filoni, so I'm going to go ahead and read that too, because it very neatly explains what balance in the Force really means and what happens when the Force is thrown out of balance. So this is what Dave Filoni had to say. "The Force naturally exists in balance. That balance is thrown out when someone chooses to give in to their fears and then spirals out of control, making selfish choice after selfish choice. Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering." And that helps us to understand what happened with Palpatine even more. This is exactly what we saw happen with Anakin and Ben Solo. They were both caught in these situations of fear. You know, Anakin feared losing his wife, Ben Solo feared losing his own life and then feared the galaxy's perception of him. This led to anger for both of them, and for Anakin, this led to a lot of hate in his heart for Obi-Wan Kenobi, for the Jedi, and that eventually leads to suffering for both of them. They're both trapped in these situations that they feel like they can't get out of. And a similar thing could be said about Maul and Dooku. It wasn't actually Maul's choice to go to the dark side, but he did choose to use that power for evil. And in the case of Dooku, he felt that renouncing the Jedi Order was the right choice. So he didn't necessarily have to be deceived into turning to the dark side like Ben Solo and Anakin were, but he and Maul are both consumed by the dark side in the same way that Ben and Anakin are after their turns. And the interesting thing about that is that these characters, through their own anger and hatred, weaken the Jedi's ability to use the Force to their advantage because they're wreaking havoc in the galaxy. So think about Maul and Dooku and the havoc they wreaked throughout the Clone Wars. And think about the Clone War itself, how much pain that's causing for so many people around the galaxy. That's literally clouding the Jedi's ability to function at their peak. And this is how Sidious concealed himself from the Jedi, and how he hindered their ability to see into the future. This explains how exactly the dark side clouds the future and clouds the Jedi's vision. Again, the feelings that are brought on by the dark side weaken the light side's effectiveness in doing what it's supposed to do. Now, this isn't necessarily a new revelation. This is something that we sort of already knew, but what they're saying in this novel really puts it into its proper perspective and explains what Palpatine did very clearly, and makes it a lot easier to understand just how the dark side operates. This was all the result of a lifetime of work from Palpatine as he orchestrated the entire Clone War, as he took on these new Sith apprentices, and through his use of the dark side, he was able to manipulate these situations and bring the Clone War and bring all these different dark things to fruition. It's those things that helped hide his endgame, not some specific power where he was like blocking the Jedi's vision himself. He's actually weakening the Force, and this makes Palpatine even more of a genius, even more terrifying, and it's a big testament to his dedication to this entire plot. But I think I'm going to wrap the video up here. I just wanted to share this with you guys because I found it to be a really interesting thing. I feel like I've repeated myself like 5 times and said the same thing in this video already, so I'm going to end things here. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments section below. As usual, please remember to leave a like to support the channel, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and of course, may the Force be with you always.